whatever you want to do now. Don't waste time anymore. Don't procrastinate. Okay, you want to say sorry, say sorry. You want to travel the world, travel the world. You want to say I love you, just do it. Embarrassingly, after I shook his hand, I of course I went to the car and I immediately cleaned my hand. Because I was just very concerned. So I tell people, you visit many home museums in your life. This is probably the only home museum you ever visit where the owner is still alive. Welcome to Clean Your Toilet Podcast. My name is Alvin and I'm the proud owner and the founder of the Intan Peranakan Home Museum.
Wow, very dramatic. Well, my name is Ying. I'm the co-founder of the Clean Your Toilet Podcast. I'm also a master certified coach as well as an ex-CFO of a medical company. So lovely to have. Yeah, I also have. Besides running the museum, since you got a lot, I also must say okay. I run a family business. It's outdoor printing. It's called buses. We put stickers on buses, taxis, and trains. And I always tell people that's my daytime job because in the evenings and the weekends, that's where I run my home museum. Right. Everything is family related.
So far lah.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
How does it feel to live and breathe that?
I don't know. I mean, I never planned for it. I think it just came by chance. I used to work for Singapore Airlines. I was what you call a station manager. Now, if you don't know what station manager does, it's quite simple. When your baggage goes missing and your flight gets delayed and you cannot find your business class lounge, all my fault.
I see.
Soon I left the airline industry and I joined my family business. And that was when I had this little museum team going where people wanted to visit me. I've been collecting Peranakan antiques for the last 40 years. You've been to visit us. And eventually the National Heritage Board came and said, why don't you just become a museum under the Museum Roundtable Association. So today I juggle, besides the many things I love to do from music and charity, predominantly I run between my family business, which is where I just came from, Kaki Bukit, as well as where my museum is, which is at Joo Chiat.
Wow, now I have so many questions, I don't know where to start.
You can start anywhere, my dear.
Okay, so so for you, like what made you want to come into your family business?
Yeah.
Because you said you were with Singapore Airlines before. Yes.
I love the job. It was a dream job. After I graduated, I wanted to live abroad, and my first posting was San Francisco. Interestingly, the only thing I knew about America at that time was 90210 and Beverly Hills. I didn't know what shopaholic these Americans were at that time, right? Soon after my first posting, I put up my hand and I says, boss, send me to India because I wanted to work with the poor in Calcutta. And I said, no, if you send me to India, you should resign one. I said, no, I promise you I won't resign. And history was it, they sent me to Dhaka, Bangladesh. I never knew where was Dhaka. I had 2.5 wonderful years in Bangladesh. I speak a smattering of Bengali. In fact, just coming up here, I was with in the elevator and I chatted with a Bengali gentleman who was going to break fast in a short while. Then I came back to Singapore and I did some work in Singapore HQ. And my boss said, I think it's time to go out again lah. And I said, where you want to send me lah? They says, I think we should send you to New York. I said, oh, you sent me first to San Francisco, America. Now you send me to America again. I think enough lah. So that was when I decided maybe it's time for me to join my family business.
Right. But I thought you wanted to see the world.
I did. In fact, interestingly, I saw more of the world before I joined the airline. A little fun fact, I'm a hippie. I'm a backpacker.
Hippie? Okay.
I remember one of my longest and most memorable trip was when the USSR collapsed, the Soviet Union collapsed. And it's I think 1993, 94. I bought a one-way ticket to Poland, Warsaw.
Wow.
And I backpacked through Eastern Europe, through the Middle East, through Iran, and ended up in Nepal. It took me 3.5 months. So I saw the world, but I think for me it was more important that I wanted to live in a different environment. And I had a wonderful pleasure. I was in America and I couldn't ask for another better posting. I went to Dhaka, Bangladesh.
Right. Wow. Okay. So it sounds like you are generally quite adventurous.
I think so. I like the word you say, adventurous. Some say reckless.
Okay.
Some say spontaneous. But I think at the end of the day, my traveling and my the work that I've done with different communities, my charities, kind of for me to whom I am today.
Right.
So I make a lot of decisions for my family business as well as for the Intan, very much based on gut feel, based on spontaneity, and with a lot of optimism and passion.
So would you say like all these qualities you just mentioned, including the adventurous part of you, does that run in your family?
I 100% don't think so.
Don't think so.
I
okay.
definitely. Well, I would say maybe in different parts. I know my dad loved traveling a lot. He loved discovering cultures, but the truth was that we were very poor when we were young, so he never had that opportunity. He was also very interested in Peranakan culture. He being Peranakan himself, and I think when he saw me kind of like collecting antiques, he would follow me, or I would get him to help to fund some of my procurement and acquisitions. Going to auction houses and going to antique dealer shops around the region. For him, I think it perhaps was a way he lived his passion. If you met my parents, Bain, you would love them. You would know that when I say I hit the parents' lottery, I really did. I was a terrible kid. Those who knew me when I was young, my parents never thought I would graduate. Even in secondary school, I was the Samsung of the town in Toa Payoh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was oh my God, I was such a terrible kid, ill-disciplined. But somehow along the way, I decided to study and I graduated. But my parents truly allowed me to follow my passion, the things that I love. They didn't ask any questions. And for that, I'm so eternally grateful.
Wow.
Yes.
But it's very interesting because like if I don't know whether you've heard of this thing before that, for a lot of people, like they end up starting off doing stuff that maybe their parents didn't get to do. Right? Because just now you started off saying that, your dad was poor, he couldn't like go around the world, and it sounded like you did that for him.
Yeah, one could say that. I think, when looking back, you can be very philosophical about it. But at the end of the day, I remembered when I was in JC, I was in CJC, Catholic Junior College, and it was during my term break, I think, and I was cycling, and I happened to cycle by Thompson Road, Mount Alvernia. Right, Mount Alvernia. And I said, hey, I like to kind of spend some time doing some charity work. So I cycled in, and the lady, Geraldine, and she's still around. She said, we are hospice. I said, what is a hospice? They say, here people come to die. I said, sure die one. She said, yeah, sure die one. I said, how interesting.
Okay.
They said, I said, I would love to spend some time with these patients or people, because in a very selfish way, I tell you honestly, Pain, because I felt that if a person is towards his end or her end of her life, they probably won't have any agenda except the fact that they want to share with you life's best lesson.
True,
right?
True.
And so I said, I would love to spend some time with your patients. And they said, okay. So a couple of things she said that I had to follow. And one of it was, she said, if you come on a particular day and time, you must always come back that same day and time.
Oh.
Because the patient will be waiting for you.
True.
I said, that's not a problem. And I had the most amazing experience with the different patients that went through my hands. I remember them so vividly, from the Makcik to Asing, who was the coffee shop owner. And each of them had their own story to share with me. I would go in and I would say to them, hello, auntie, how are you? 我是在做义工的, I do volunteer work, talk to me. And after a while, they get comfortable and then we chat about their condition. And then, and I always ask them, so if you had something to share with me, what would you say to me? And I remember, they keep saying the same thing. Whatever you want to do now. Don't waste time anymore. Don't procrastinate. Okay, you want to say sorry, say sorry. You want to travel the world, travel the world. You want to say I love you, just do it. And that stuck with me, and I think that gave me that oomph, that little extra reason for me to just live life with a passion.
Right.
Yeah. And that's how I did it.
So when was it that you went through this phase?
Wait, I think it was such a long time ago. Maybe not JC, maybe university. CYT. Maybe my first year, I had my 3 months break and I was cycling. And but again, I always say for all the people that I've met, the friends, who we are really is the combination of all the different people and experiences, the people like you that we've met, our parents, our mentors, our leaders, our classmates, our first bosses. I think they all kind of form kind of like who we are. And that's why whenever I get students who write to me and they want some form of internship, a mentorship, I would never say no. Because I believe that I've gained so much in the people that I've met, and it's so simple to just share it with the young people today.
And so it becomes a form of guidance for you, right?
Oh, definitely.
Like having gone to the hospice, heard all those stories.
Absolutely.
And it just makes you jump into stuff.
Yeah, some can say reckless. I remembered in one trip I did, I was in Nepal. Okay,
right.
So Nepal allows you a 30-day visa. Okay, and I was doing some volunteering work with some association there, some community. And what most travelers do is that to extend their visa, they would then travel to India and they spend maybe a night there and then they come back with another fresh new 30-day visa, right? Makes sense, right?
Yes.
But here, this innocent Singaporean boy, so I went on an overnight bus, went to India, the border town, nearly killed myself on the bus because I was sitting on top, right? And I remember so clearly, it was early morning and I walked through the causeway or the immigration, and the guy said, "How long are you here for?" Then I said, "1 day lah." I said it was a border town in India. He said, cannot leh. I said, "What do you mean cannot? You must spend minimum 7 days here."
Wow. Okay.
So I never thought any other thing, just like, really, 7 days. But of course, I didn't bring enough money and clothes, and I said, okay, 7 days, we'll find a way to survive, okay. But this is border town, it's not Johor Bahru for that matter, okay.
Okay.
So I went, and the first thing I did was, let's look for a church, Church will help you, right? I'm Catholic, how can you don't help me, right? So I went to the hospital, then the hospital said, you want to go, there's no church here, but there is a community there. It's a leprosy colony.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, little flower home. I say, leprosy home. You see, come on. When do you ever hear and read about a leprosy home? In the Bible, Matthew. I said, I want to go and see what's this leprosy home. So I went. So this guy comes out, right? Because he's a brother, a Catholic brother Christodas. He came on the sarong. I said, brother, I said, I'm Catholic. I said, I got to stay here for 7 days. Can I stay here? I'll do some work. If you need me to do, I'll help. Yeah, no problem. You just stay here, no problem. So I spent 7 wonderful days with the leprous colony. I learned so much about how it doesn't spread or how it is contagious and how the stigma about leprosy is. True. And I think I recently went to Google Little Flower Home and Brother Christodas. I think he received an award by the Indian government for the kind of work that he did.
Wow.
And I think that could only have happened is because of the people I've met along the way, the experiences at the hospice, and just my crazy traveling journey.
Yeah, but I mean, I definitely resonate with what you're sharing also, because like for me, like growing up, it was also the same thing. Like money, whatever that money can solve, is not a big issue.
Yes.
But then like, sometimes there are things that you don't go after in life, right? Money, your life you can't earn back.
Exactly. And I think it's exactly what you're doing right now with this podcast, which I've never heard, I'll be honest, until you sent it to me. And I was so impressed, I mean, we all have different passions, but never did I thought I would meet somebody like you, so passionate about the kind of podcasts that you do.
You're also very passionate about all the stories you're sharing.
Life is short,
Like, so it's very nice to hear like all the different stories you have to share.
Certainly.
So then for you, right, what got you started with collecting all these antiques?
Pure insanity.
Insanity, okay,
so
tell me more.
So the truth is, I am Peranakan. Both my parents are Peranakans. But when I was younger, I was very clueless about Peranakan culture, because, when I was growing up, in the 70s, 80s, right, where got people talk about culture, we were focused on nation building, finding jobs for people, building houses. Peranakan's. So that was the kind of environment that I grew up in. And I remember going to school, and then people said, I started to hear people speaking Mandarin. And I said, what is this? How come I don't know how to speak Mandarin? How come the food that my babysitter, who's Hainanese, had at home was different from what I had at home, what my mom cooked? And that got me kind of aware that I was different from my friends. And that I am Peranakan. My mother would say, you are Peranakan, so you must be srono, means you must be prim and proper. And because of that, I kind of exceeded in the fact that I was different than most of my other classmates.
Like you have to be more proper.
Not just more proper, but that I'm Peranakan, whatever that means lah. Right?
But you didn't know what that means.
Yeah, my dad never kind of got me on his lap and says, okay, Alvin, we are Peranakans, our ancestors came from China, they married. Never because people just took things for granted lah. So I grew up not knowing anything about my own culture, and that the fact that I went to school and I heard words like OCBC, Orang Cina, bukan Cina.
Right.
Means you're Chinese, not Chinese, right? And of course, I was one of those that did terribly poor in my Mandarin. No matter how I tried, there was no such thing as learning and then trying to repeat everything out. It was just impossible for me.
Right.
And then when I grew up in my teens, that when I had a little bit of income, I started to want to discover more about my roots. And then I went garage sale. Those days there was garage sale, and now all is online already, right? And I started to pick up things lah. And that was how the collection grew and grew and grew and to what it is today lah.
Was there a part of you that felt like at some point you needed to stop?
No. I don't remember. I don't remember, but I'm sure my parents did.
Right. And what would you say that collecting really represents for you?
It kind of helped me connect with who I am and where I came from. It kind of made sense that I was today what we term as third culture kids. I remember when I do my tours and when I get some visitors, and some of them come from different parentage. And when they hear about Peranakan culture, they said to me, oh, Alvin, I wish I met you much earlier. It's just because they said they were growing up and no one had a term to define and to identify who they are. They were just different with different parentage or different cultural parents. And to see Peranakan culture for what it is today helps to kind of connect and kind of make sense that it's okay to have different identity coming together. So for me, I guess it kind of helped to fit the pieces of who I am and where I came from.
And what did you learn about yourself, your heritage in the process?
What did I learn about myself? Well, I learned that my forefathers came much earlier than many of my other classmates. I learned that I had my culture had different identities. We speak Baba Malay. We wear batik. We eat with our hands. Our food was very local, a lot more spices. I learned very quickly it is not my fault that I don't do well in Mandarin.
Okay.
I also learned that many times we Peranakans are more Chinese sometimes than my Chinese friends themselves, only because there was this need to kind of remind ourselves who we are, and many of the traditions during Chinese New Year, during festivals, I understand from my mother, were a lot more meticulous than some of how my other friends celebrated.
Right.
Yes.
And what do you feel are the more important aspects of your heritage that needs to be brought forward to the future?
I had this question asked me before, what do you hope for the younger generation? My reply was quite simple. I says, don't need to eat Peranakan food. Don't need to speak Baba Malay. Don't need to wear batik. Don't need to collect Peranakan antiques. To me, whatever heritage or identity you come from, just know who you are. That, for Peranakan, for this matter, that Peranakanness in you will manifest itself. Whether you are a writer, whether you're an artist, whether you're a chef, that identity, and we've seen it happen, right? We've seen it in playwrights, we've seen it in fashion design. So and I don't believe it just applies to Peranakan culture, any culture for that matter. Just know who you are, and that part of you, to me, will manifest itself. Yeah.
That sounds really cryptic.
Okay.
In that sense.
If I can draw the example of my American friends that I've met now. So before going to America, I was very curious. I wanted to, because they say America is a land of migrants,
Yep.
right? So I say, then there must be American Peranakan, in that sense, right? How they had different identity. But no, when I went there, they could be Italian, they could be Polish, they could be German, but they were all Americans. They were a melting pot. So to me, that is the one of the biggest difference for Peranakans, right, or for Singaporeans for that matter. We keep very much to our home ethnic identity. At the same time, we celebrate what is common amongst us. Unlike in America, where it's a melting pot, where if you are German, you're Polish, you're Russian, it kind of like marginalized or it disappears along the way. You're just American.
Right.
Yeah. And that to me is the most important part about learning about our own identity and our own culture.
That's a big part.
I think so.
so then, given that, Peranakans, they fall under a matriarchy, right? Which is quite different from
Go
most...
on. Go on.
Different from most cultures, right? Where it's more patriarchal in nature. So then, how does that make you see the world differently?
Yeah. Okay, so we have to be very clear. Okay? When we say matriarchal, exactly what do we mean? Yes, Little Nyonya and Masters of the Sea, we see Margaret Chan being that very fierce matriarch, the lady of the house. I'll crush you like a cockroach, Yeah. So it's portrayed that the lady has a very strong position in the home Now, I would explore that Is it a Peranakan trait, or is it a wealthy family trait of the past? Look at wealthy families in India, in China, in Japan, for example. Look at royal families. Look at Queen Elizabeth. You kind of see a certain pattern when they are of a certain status, a certain size. Generally, the matriarch, the mother of the house, has a very strong role. She's the one that glues the family together. And whenever many times you see when the grandmother, the matriarch, passes on, the family then kind of sometimes breaks up, or there's less impulse, there's less need to get together. So I would challenge that. I would ask, is it truly peculiar to the Peranakan community?
I mean, for sure, there are other communities where it's more matriarchal.
So I think it is matriarchal in many ways, but I think it's generally because it is of a wealthy family and a large family situation. Right. But having said that, and I must say, I've met many Peranakan women who are very feisty. Yes.
So, but does it come from the culture of the Peranakans?
I don't know. I don't think I have enough evidence. I don't think we can factually say that. But if you say the Peranakans are wealthy and they had large families and the mother had to run the household like a business, then yes, it would have been the case.
Understand. So then, given your family dynamics growing up, how do you see yourself then relating to authority, to gender, or how you care for
like everyone else, I think. I've got my own fair share of great bosses, as well as some that I would perhaps wish they understood me better. I would say I never had the opportunity of having a female boss.
Oh.
Yeah. But then again, in the line of work that I do today, everyone is my boss, right? I don't see that being very significant in any way.
I understand. Yeah. I think I'm a bit opposite to you. I have mostly male bosses.
Really?
Female bosses, yes, maybe one or two in many.
They say having female bosses is like playing tennis with a left-hander.
Oh,
So whether you are male or female, many of us may not be as familiar in managing a female boss as much as we are familiar in handling a male boss. That's what I read somewhere. So don't crucify me. That's what I read.
meaning it's easier to work with a male boss. than a
Only
female
because
boss.
we have more experience with them. That's all.
Yeah, I think end of the day it's really down to the personality of the male or the female. Because like I think even from a gender standpoint, you could be in that gender. You could be a male, but you're actually more feminine in nature, softer. You could also be a female who's more masculine, right? So then you may be presenting a certain way, but then how you're being, your masculinity or femininity actually determines.
I remember, when I left Singapore Airlines, which I love very much still, and I joined my family business, I could do many things. I could do marketing, I could do sales, I could do ops. The only thing that was most difficult for me was HR, managing people. Somehow, because in SQ there was always a HR department, right, to take care of everything, right? And here I had to deal with what happens with the staff needs to come in late. What happened if they have a child that is sick? So it was crazy. I had so much of challenges learning how to manage human capital. Interestingly, after going through all that tuition lessons, right, I actually was recognized as for a HR award, Best CEO award. Can you imagine?
Oh, wow.
I would have never imagined. But I guess I truly believe HR listening to the people and understanding their needs really can make a difference in any
But what
company.
makes you feel that you're not good at managing people?
Oh my Lord, you should see the number of resignations I had. They were falling off like flies. I was recruiting the wrong people. I was punishing, or I was disciplining the wrong. I had a different style, It was something that I was just very unfamiliar with. And then again, that's where my dad came into the picture. He saw everything happening. He says, you are in charge. You deal how you need to deal with it. And if the staff resigns, we just have to find new staff. And I'm so grateful that he gave me that space to learn.
But then, what do you see that inform the way of you managing people? Because how you manage others must come from somewhere, right?
Okay, what's your question again? Sorry.
Meaning so for each of us, our style of managing people actually comes from somewhere that we learn from, or that we say that, it's bad, I'm going to not be this way. So for you, what was it?
So I guess it was how I saw my own bosses, and I had many when I was in my first and the only job that I was with was Singapore Airlines. I saw different styles, and I guess perhaps it was the very first time that I could kind of exercise it. And I suddenly understood why bosses, why my ex-bosses behaved, they did that way, because I couldn't see it when I was on the other end of the career. Yes.
Right. Okay. And so when it comes to you right now running a museum, right? The Intan Museum.
Yes.
What is that experience like for you?
For me, what's it like to run a museum? Amazing. You never know who comes knocking at your door, who makes a booking to visit you. It could be a local, it could be a foreigner, and you never understand. You never know why they chose to visit Intan, because we are not in Orchard Road. We are in Joo Chiat. You got to find your way there, right? And it's my home, So it's always interesting to meet different people like yourself from all walks of life, and learning about their own culture, their own history. Some Singaporeans, or I've got families that come and say, I'm here to learn about my own culture.
Oh, cool.
Or maybe because my mom passed away and I never kind of appreciated what it was. You have foreigners coming and they say to me, you are so lucky to be able to celebrate your culture in the country that you live in, and we don't have that luxury. So that allows me to kind of reset every time. I remember I had this couple, very wealthy. I think they're from the States, I think. And they came, and it was Christmas, And they came, and then we spoke, and I said, "Hey, it's Christmas, do you have kids?" They said, "Yeah, we've got, I think, 1 or 2 kids, and they're married." And I said, "Do you have grandkids?" They said, "Yeah, they have grandkids." And so the first question, of course, for me was like, then why in heaven's name are you here? You should be at home with your grandkids for Christmas, right? And then I realized because their kids had their own partners or in-laws, and I guess it was a bit of a challenge where to spend Christmas with. And they had the experience the previous year. So rather than make their kids choose, they say, you know what, guys, why don't you guys celebrate Christmas where you are, and we're just going to be in Southeast Asia, and going on holiday. So again, you hear different stories and different journeys of different lives. Yes.
And how do you feel about it? Because obviously it's something that sticks with you.
It's an honor. I take their sharing their confidence in sharing with me that such an intimate part of their lives with me, very sacred and very special. Sometimes I even, the things I hear, then I would text the hotel, because I have a very close relationship with the different concierges in the different hotels. And I say, hey, by the way, this guest is staying with you, and they may be visiting their grandkids, so you might want to do something special for them, or and that creates that bond. Because when you come to the Intan, it's my home. Unlike any other museum you've ever visited, right? It's really where I live, before you come in, I do my work on my computer, I might play my piano, I might be having my meal, but the moment a guest that you walk in, it transforms into a museum. And I think that's what makes it special. So when guests comes in, they take off their footwear, their slippers, and suddenly, after a few minutes, they relax, because it's like visiting somebody's home. And I think that's where they find it extra special.
But it's interesting, right? Because for most people, when they visit museums, those are larger institutions.
Exactly.
With very specific roles that the custodians of the museum play.
Yes.
And in your case, it's kind of like a living museum because you live in it.
You're absolutely right. So I tell people, you visit many home museums in your life. This is probably the only home museum you ever visit where the owner is still alive, ma.
Yeah.
Other home museums like Sun Yat-sen's home lah, Jim Thompson, all see liao, all gone already, right?
Yes.
But here, touch wood, I'm still alive and kicking. And I think that makes it special. And the other thing that's special also is our association with the National Heritage Board. Because, let's be honest, if you have a lot of scarf, you have a lot of microphones, you can call yourself a microphone museum. For us, I never thought that I would be part of the Museum Roundtable Association. We were invited, and today I proudly flash that badge that we are part of a museum community. So there's certain things that we do that we are very serious about. But at the same time, we push the boundary of how museums can reach out and share culture and heritage.
Right. But the thing is, what does it take to be a museum? Because I would imagine there's a lot that you undertake, given that you are carrying the heritage of the Peranakans.
Well, again, I wouldn't say most countries. At least I think some countries, and Singapore is one of them, we don't govern how we use the word museum. So you have ice cream museum. There's more of a Instagram attraction. You have the cookie museum, which is very retail. It's at Suntec City. Tiong Bahru, you go to the market upstairs, there's a kopitiam museum or coffee museum, they call themselves.
That one, okay.
The shop, right? Yeah, so technically, you can open a private limited. You can call yourself the podcast museum for who cares,
Right.
I think. But I did ask Straits Times once, because they featured me and 2-3 others. And I asked them, how do you, the Straits Times, classify a museum? And for them, they shared quite interestingly. They said, number one, you must have a collection of things lah. So you have something then you can call it, right? You must have something lah, people,
right.
Whatever. And number two, it must be accessible to the public.
Right.
Meaning that don't pay, never mind. But at least people can access. So for example, if you have a lot of water bottles, but only your invited friends and guests
can
see. Then Straits Times at the time told me, the journalist says, then we won't consider. But if you have a lot of bottles and you can make an appointment to visit you, whether you charge or don't charge, for them, that is a museum lah.
Right. Interesting.
Yes.
So, coming then back to your heritage, like your roots. So, you said that at some point in time, you weren't really sure what your roots are.
Yes.
Right. So then, did that make you feel like you're kind of in between, like you don't exactly belong?
Yeah, of course lah. Like, don't know where you are, ma. Like, how come my Chinese cannot speak Chinese, ma? How come I got no Chinese name? Oh, jialat, go to school, lah. So interesting. I don't understand why. But my whole family got no Chinese name. So I'm Alvin Yapp. My sister is Cheryl Yapp, right? So when I went to school, the Chinese teacher says, how do we address you, right? We cannot call you Alvin, right? You must have a Chinese name. I said, I don't have, what will you do? So I asked my babysitter, right? She said, 我帮你找一个名字啦, come lah. Alvin, fine, 容易啦. Ai Ming, because my mother said, you better give him an easy name, because he cannot remember how to write now. So Alvin, so I became Ai Ming. Yes, so my name is Ai Ming.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So yes, definitely it was out of place lah. I remember when I was in San Francisco and I went there as my posting. When I went to Chinatown, I felt more of a stranger in Chinatown than I was in Union Street. Union Square. Because in Chinatown, everyone spoke Cantonese.
Right.
And I couldn't deal with Cantonese. I mean, bad enough was Mandarin. What more Cantonese, And of course, they all would speak to me in Mandarin or Cantonese. And I felt more ang mo lah. Right? So yeah, I would say I did feel very much out of place, and it was difficult for me to identify who I was.
And how did that shape your identity then?
Learning about Peranakan culture, learning how I am, it was okay.
Right.
Yeah, I am as Singaporean as you can get. Yeah, I did one interview. Somebody asked me, I think it was MCCY. They said, when do you feel most Singaporean? No? And I said, when I take a Grab. Then he said, why? I said, especially when there's a Malay driver, because when I hop into the cab and I know it's a Malay driver, I tend to kind of be a bit mischievous. I will ask the guy, like, ni hari sibuk tak? Ada banyak orang ya? Then he was like, you Chinese or Malay?
Okay.
Right? And then I say, Chinese lah. You from Johor nah? Then I say, I'm Singaporean. He said, cannot be leh. Chinese Singaporeans don't speak Malay, and you're not pelat. That means you don't have a Chinese accent. Yeah?
Right.
So to me, that is, for me,
they're also
where
confused.
I feel most Singaporean.
Okay.
Yes.
I see. It's interesting. So I also have an interesting story to tell.
Please share.
Because it's interesting. Like for me, my race is Chinese, but then growing up, my brother is a Malay.
Okay.
But then both my parents are Chinese.
Okay.
So it's very interesting because so my grandfather kind of lost his parents. Paternal.
Okay.
Lost his parents kind of lost his parents during the World War. Don't know where they went.
Your paternal grandfather lost his parents. Okay.
Maybe lost sight, got lost or something. I'm not sure whether they passed on. And so because of that, he was subsequently adopted by a Malay family.
Fair enough.
And then that's where, my dad has a Malay name and a Chinese name.
Okay, I understand. Yeah.
And so
not uncommon. Correct.
So it's very interesting because his IC and his passport has different races. So when I was born and my other brother was
big collector's item there.
Huh?
Big collector's item. I'm a collector, so
I don't know whether
you.
it's still there. But so because of that, then interestingly, to me and one of my brothers, we are Chinese. But my youngest brother is a Malay.
Because
by then
but same mother, same father.
The system was computerized already. So then the system captured him as a Malay. Right? And so then it's very interesting because he then had to apply to study Mandarin.
I see.
But the funny thing is, I'm not sure whether is it the label that's placed on him, so he's also not very good in his Mandarin.
Okay.
In his languages, right? So and so when my grandfather passed, they would want to, handle his body the way that Malays would. Right? And then we had to apply to do a Chinese wake and funeral.
Right.
Right. And then subsequently all the people in the family line who actually have their race as Malay, they had to go to court to change it.
Like your brother lah?
Yeah.
Oh.
So it was quite a process to kind of go through.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So even though we are not exactly Malay race, but then I've always felt close to the culture of it.
Right.
Or even the Peranakans.
Right.
And I think maybe it's just because by labeling, you kind of already feel that sense of
This is Singapore as you can get, man.
Yeah.
Yes.
Correct.
You only hear this in Singapore.
Yes. So
wow.
that's very interesting.
Wow, fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yes. So then coming back to
okay.
to you, right? So what kind of questions have you had about your own roots? at different stages of your life? Because I'm assuming that, sometimes it's not just your own heritage, but then you also start questioning who you are, right?
Oh,
And
you
it
mean
makes
my own question, eh?
Yes, correct.
Of course. Well, if you ask me what are some of the questions I get, most people ask me, so is your father or is your mother Malay? And I'm
Okay.
like, no, it happened way before. I think for me, for me, my question would be, who are my forefathers? I never managed to find that out.
Right.
My family name is my dad's my dad's name, of course. My name is Yapp, YAPP. Interesting,
Correct.
Kiasu, right? PP, okay. And he has certain recollection of his father coming from Sabah, but we don't have any more information beyond that. But once in a while, the universe kind of drops a different YAPP in our line. So this is real story. Okay, so what happened was I was at the airport, right? I was at the airport, and before we get posted out, I was a duty manager in Changi Airport, right? And we are assigned certain positions, whether you are arrival, you are transit. And that day I was at arrival. Arrival is the most boring. Nothing happens at touch wood, nothing happens at arrival, right? So I went up and kind of chit chat and socialize, with the staff and all that. So I was at the transfer desk. Transfer desk is when you come in on SQ, then you transfer to another airline, to transfer desk, Mateo.
Correct.
So there's this there's this girl, and she's very pretty, and she was at the Malaysian Airlines counter, and she was having a difficult time, and the MH guy kept pointing to SQ. You go to SQ. And she was telling, no, la, 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 la. So she came over. So I, of course, with my jacket, I hero, I said, how can I help you, ma'am? And she said, I arrived from Kota Kinabalu on a MH flight, a Malaysian Airlines flight, which was delayed. And because of that, I missed my Singapore Airlines flight to Perth.
Oh.
Now, this is the simplest thing to handle. You just look at her ticket, verify it was delayed, just put her on the next available flight to Perth. Very simple, right?
Yes.
I said, ma'am, let me help you.
The hero that you are.
Yeah, I said, show me your ticket and passport lah. Then I took lah. Of course, Australian passport lah. Then I said, YAPP leh. Then I said to her, ma'am, you got an interesting last name. She said, really? She said, yeah. I said, in Singapore, as far as I know, my family is the only one with a YAPP. And she looked at me and she says,
you're related.
Whose son are you? She asked. I said, Matthew is my father. And she says, and she just smacked me. She says, we are cousins, Silly. Uncle Mike, her father is Michael. Because her parents got divorced, and so her mother remarried, and that's where they moved to Perth. And so we used to play.
Family.
We used to play together as kids under the void deck, the block, right? And she's, I'm Sharina lah. I said, oh my God. I said, really? And what are the chances, right, that you... And if I wasn't there at that time, and she didn't miss the flight, I would have never have reconnected with her.
Wow, there's some kind of synchronicity.
Yeah, but only just last month there was another case. Now this one we don't have the full story yet because I love this dim sum place in Bedok, right? And I went there with my dad, and they had a special, and there was this they featured this chef lah, and his name was Ben Yapp with a double P. Okay, and of course we got excited, no? And my dad told the staff, who's my friend, I said, can we see the chef? So Ben came out. And then besides Ben, I said, we just thought we introduce ourselves with our YAPP. And then he said, because I told you my grandfather is from Sabah. Then I asked him, are you Singaporean or Malaysian? He said, I'm Malaysian. And I said, where are you from? I asked him, he says, I'm from Sabah. I said, you from Sabah? Yeah, I'm from Sabah. I said, hey, got chance, right? And then he said, he asked me, what are we, what dialect group? And we are Hakka, we are cakes. Then he said, we are also cakes.
Oh.
But then maybe YAPP or cake, who knows, right?
Okay.
So we exchanged numbers and photographs and we saw each other's family photos, but still we have not figured out where that link is. So if any of you out there, if you have a double P or you know anybody with double P, please come and let me know because I would love to know who my family is.
But this is where you are really passionate about your roots and finding.
Wouldn't you? Suddenly if somebody comes and tells you, actually, I'm your grandfather's natural Or maybe your grandfather's long lost brother.
That would be very challenging to find.
Challenging to find, but if you did find it, that would be quite. I think it's maybe I'm a romantic now. I know.
I can tell that.
It's quite special lah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And plus how life kind of brought us to where we are today, and to me that is special.
Yeah, I mean the thing is that my grandfather lost touch with his parents when he was still a young kid, so he can't even remember them, let alone find.
Sure.
Right. So then, growing up, when people talk about your roots tracing them back, I'm like, I'm not sure how and where we're going to trace that.
Yes.
We can only do it on my mother's side and like maybe my paternal grandmother.
Never say never. You never know one. I mean, like, what are the chances of me meeting Sharina at the airport, right?
But your surname is rare enough such that it's.
Yes.
That when you have a PP behind, it's easier to find, right?
It is. I'm an antique collector, so I'm very philosophical. If it's meant to be,
it's meant to be.
It's meant to be.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is that also how you find your items?
Absolutely. And when I look for pieces, I learned that you can chase so hard for a particular item. If it's not yours, it's not meant to be yours. Yeah. But if it's yours, I had this case where I was in Indonesia, and it was a trip with my family and my aunt who's from England, and we were in a certain town. I had to deliver something to a shop . And after a very long day's journey, I went to the shop and I delivered what I needed to deliver, and I saw something that I liked very much. But then there was no way I could have taken time to look at it and negotiate it, and while everyone else was in the vehicle, in the minibus, right? So I said, it's not meant to be . 1 year later, the item was still there. And now,
you went past again?
Of course, and now it's my home.
Oh, it's your home.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. So if it's meant to be, it's meant to be.
But how do you, like as a collector, right, how do you go about finding those items?
Just go find . I mean, look at antique shops, go on Carousel, go on eBay, look at auctions, talk to friends. I also had to travel to places that is not Peranakan. You know why? Because I had to see things that are not Peranakan, so that when the antique dealer or family or homes show me pieces, at least I can tell, I think this is more Vietnamese . This one more Myanmar, more Burmese. So that was my learning . But today, after 40 over years of collecting, people send me photographs on WhatsApp and WeChat and ask me yes or no before. So it's like Tinder. I must left, right before somebody else takes it .
Okay.
Yes.
As in like, so they come to you to check like what the item is? And
No, for many ways. They send me pictures. They ask me, can you tell me a bit more about these pieces that I have? Are you interested? Would you like to, can we pass them to you? Would you like to buy? How can we sell? Where can we donate? Is it Peranakan? Is it not Peranakan? Is it real? Is it fake? So all sorts . And then it's nice, to have this community. Yes.
so you've become someone who's quite an expert when it comes to
I would never say
items.
I would never say I'm an expert because we don't know what we don't know. I guess I share from my heart what I do know, and then I leave it to you how you like to take it .
But it's still through your experience that you can then tell whether or not it's authentic, whether it's a Peranakan thing.
Yeah,
or...
so I would never say that because I don't know what I don't know. And today there are many replicas out there that is so well done, sometimes even nicer, often nicer than their olden piece, right? So how do you say you definitely know ? There's a lot of questions. There's always that possibility that you are wrong.
Understand. So what do you see is the essence of the Peranakan tradition and heritage?
What do I see is the essence of Peranakan? To me, I tell my guests, you can forget everything I say and share with you about Peranakan culture, but at the end of the day, it is a mix of different identities coming together. I think that's the part that stands out for me very strongly. That as a Peranakan Chinese, we have Chinese names, we celebrate Chinese festivals like the Lunar New Year. Our weddings, our funerals in the past were very Chinese. But at the same time, our food, our language tend to be very local. At the same time, also we are kind of quite ang moa, quite banana, right? So I always say that actually Singaporeans, are like the modern day Peranakans. When you look at us, we look Asian, or in this case, we look Chinese, but we think like a local, or we think like a Westerner sometimes, we eat local, but we think like a Westerner. Our interviews are in English, our contracts are in English,
Yep.
right? That's why when Taylor Swift came, the contract doesn't allow her to sing any other country but Singapore, because it's contractual, right? But when World Cup comes, and we will certainly support Japan and Korea because they are Asian cities.
Right.
So to me, Singaporeans are like the modern day Peranakans.
I see. So in your case, like, do you then celebrate Hari Raya as well?
No, not at all. Okay. Hari Raya is a religious festival. Right?
Okay.
It's an Islamic festival.
I see.
So no, we don't celebrate.
Because like the Peranakans are Catholics.
Many today are Catholics. Of course, if you are Peranakan and you are Muslim, of course you celebrate Hari Raya lah. Naturally, right? And you probably celebrate Chinese New Year because Chinese is cultural ma. And I think some of my Chinese Muslim friends celebrate Chinese New Year as well.
Yes, correct.
Correct.
So this year, with both of them converging, is like
and plus as Catholics, it's also Ash Wednesday. So I went for Ash Wednesday and I had my ashes on my forehead.
Oh, okay.
On the second day of Chinese New Year when I was in Indonesia.
Right.
Yes.
Very cool.
Yes.
Very cool.
You must see my Facebook page. So during Chinese New Year this year, I was in this crazy place called Majalengka. It's in West Java. And on our last day, on the Friday, it was really puasa. It was Ramadan. And so what my father and I did was I titled this Celebrating Chinese New Year Buka Puasa Style. So we went around the little warungs, the vendors, and we bought food and we distributed to the rickshaw riders and to the street peddlers to celebrate Chinese New Year for us and for them to buka puasa.
Yeah. Actually, I like from what you've been sharing so far, I feel like you're kind of big on charity.
Oh, very much. Yeah.
Right. And does that also run in your heritage?
Oh, does it run? So this is a very dangerous question. I cannot speak.
Not of maybe Peranakan, but maybe of your own like family or, generationally.
I can share with you, my parents are very charitable, they're very generous, but in different ways. My parents are very poor when we were young, but I hear stories of how my mom would help her sisters get out of trouble, and so is my dad. For me, I kind of took things differently. I love working with the poor. I spend many hours with homes. Today I chair Beyond Social Services. I'm the president. I'm with Singapore Social Society. When I travel, I try to visit homes in Dhaka. And that's why I love Dhaka so much, because when I was there, I could do a lot of work. I contributed to the community. And SQ was so supportive. We had items that were sent to them during the flood. My bosses, when they visited me, one of the places I would bring them to was a Mother Teresa's home. And this is, it's very interesting. So the Mother Teresa has various homes in Dhaka, Bangladesh. And one of it was for infants, for orphans. So when when a lady gets pregnant in Bangladesh, perhaps if she doesn't want the child, maybe because she's a single mother, she may be a prostitute. What she does is she spends time in this home, and there will be a couple who may want to adopt a child. And on the day that the mother gives birth, the parent brings the child home, like as if she went to the hospital, right?
Right.
Generally, Muslim babies get adopted. Yeah, so you don't find many Muslim babies left in the orphanage. Interestingly, in Dhaka, Bangladesh, many Hindu and Christian babies are left unadopted.
Right.
Maybe because there were fewer Christian or Hindu families in Bangladesh, and maybe they wanted to try to have their own kid. And so when you go to the orphanage, it's a huge hall, and there'll be rows of babies in a cradle, and you walk by, you just swing, and it's interesting. And I remember when I visited these homes, the nun who was in charge, she says, Alvin, don't bring any more sweets, don't bring any more toys. We have enough. Just come and hug and play with the babies.
Wow.
That's what they need the most.
Yeah, what they need is the care.
Touch. Yes, yes. So I remembered in this trip in Majalengka, we stopped. I rented a car and we stopped at Alphamart. Alphamart is like the 7-Eleven, right?
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, you know. So we went to get some food or went to get a coffee lah, and we saw this. He looked like a beggar lah. He was unshaven. And so I told Dad, I said, hey, let's get him some food lah. So I bought some bread, you know, and I came out and we passed it to him, you know. And I said, ni makan na buka puasa nanti na. Later you can book breakfast, you know. And it was quite it took me by surprise. I mean, of course he said, oh, thank you, but he turned and then he turned back and he stretched out his hand. And he said, thank you very much. Terima kasih. And of course I put up my hand, you know, and I can still feel the roughness and the amount of, I don't know, the weariness and the dirt and possibly all the bacteria that was in him. Embarrassingly, I mean, first to admit, embarrassingly, after I shook his hand, I of course I went to the car and I immediately cleaned my hand, you know, because I was just very concerned. But the next half an hour or so when I was driving, it kind of hit me. I wished I spent a little bit more time physically, whether putting my hand on his shoulder or just holding his hand a little longer, because I can imagine that is something that that would be so special for that person. Another story now that I remember this, I was in Dhaka. I was in Calcutta, and we went. We would do charity work in the morning, and males and females were separated, you know. And so there was this home that I went to, and we would wash their laundry and then we had a little bit of a break time, and I went into the dormitory, and there was this very frail Indian man lying on the bed lah. And I went and because I myself love massages, you know, so I imagined somebody would also like massage. So I went and I kind of massaged him and did his head and all that, you know. And then he had a fever. I heard hot lah. And then the guy next to me says, Oshisto. So I speak Bengali. Because I live in Bangladesh. My Kakata speaks Bengali, right? You mentioned. So he says, Oshisto. He says, sick. So I say, oh, really? I say, sister. I say, I think he's not well. Then he says, yeah, he's got a fever. Now, because I used to work with the hospice, and I learned that it's not unusual when the person is reaching death. He has very high fever. You know, so I said, okay. So I continued massaging him in the blanket and touching him. And you know what? The next day when I came back, he wasn't there. Moved on. Yeah, he passed away that night. I didn't know how to feel. Whether it was definitely a privilege to have been one of the last human being in touch with him. I don't know whether he enjoyed the massage or he felt I was a nuisance, but I certainly felt honored, you know. And again, I'm reminded, life is short. You know, you never know what's going to happen, and the people that you're going to meet. And that's why when you asked me to support or to do this, I didn't know what was about. I said, just say yes, just say yes first. We'll figure out how to do it later.
Yeah. Yes. And all that wisdom and stories you brought from the kind of work that you've done, right? Whether it's meeting people from different walks of life, or whether it is like just your charity work, being able to meet people who are close to the end of life, or like are in places where they are not generally welcomed. I think that brings a lot of lessons that a lot of us don't get to experience because we just don't go to such places. Right? And so that's pretty eye-opening, I think.
Thank you. I mean, I've been blessed. I've been privileged in so many ways with my parents and the people I've met and the opportunities. And it is an honor to be able to share.
Yep. So thank you for coming on the podcast.
You're most welcome. I hope I didn't bore you with my stories.
I'm sure the audience will enjoy a lot of those stories. And I guess just to wrap up, is there a message or words of wisdom that you'd like to leave the listeners with? Whether it's with regards to life or whether it's with regards to, heritage and tradition.
I know. You had that in your thesis here that you shared with me, which interestingly we hardly touched a lot of the questions in there. Or I'm not sure. But I think for me, if you ask me, I would say live life to the fullest. And that's how I've led my life, and I've no regrets.
Okay. Thank you.